Hey there! Tonight, we're diving into the fascinating world of Roman bathhouses, but not the relaxing spa experience you might imagine. Instead, we'll uncover why life in these ancient bathing complexes was often anything but peaceful. From overcrowded rooms filled with people of all classes to the gritty routines of scrubbing and sweating, Roman bathhouses were bustling hubs of social life, politics, and sometimes chaos. We'll explore the surprising realities behind the steamy walls, the less than clean water, the intense physical rituals, and the strict rules that govern behavior. You'll meet the people who worked behind the scenes, slaves and attendants, who kept everything running, and learn how these baths were more than just places to get clean. They were places to exercise, gossip, and do business. As we journey through the architecture, the smells, and even the politics that swirled inside, you'll discover that Roman baths were a complex mix of luxury and labor, hygiene and hazard. So, get ready to step into a world where relaxation was rare, but life was anything but dull. Let's unravel the truth about what really went on in a Roman bathhouse. You step through the grand entrance of the Roman bathhouse, and immediately you're engulfed by a world that's far from the quiet, peaceful spas you might imagine. The bathhouse wasn't just a place to get clean. It was the city, speeding social heart, a bustling hub where people from all walks of life came not only to wash, but to meet, mingle, and make deals. For you, entering the bathhouse means stepping into a vibrant crossroads of politics, business, and society, where the boundaries between leisure and labor blur. As you navigate through the warm air thick with steam and chatter, you realize the bathhouse is much more than a spot for relaxation. It's a place where senators discuss politics over bowls of steaming water, where merchants haggle over contracts, and where news spreads faster than it could on the street. The sounds of voices echo off marble walls, laughter, debate, and sometimes heated argument. Here, your role isn't passive. You're part of a living network, constantly aware of who's around and what's being said. The bathhouse welcomed everyone from wealthy patricians, draped in fine togas, to common laborers seeking a moment of respite. This mix of classes created a unique social atmosphere unlike anywhere else in the city. You might overhear a senator whispering to a merchant about a new tax law, while nearby, craftsmen discussed the latest building projects. It was the perfect place to build alliances, spread influence, or simply keep your ear to the ground. Politics played out just as much in the bathhouse as in the forum. You could spot local magistrates or powerful politicians using their visits to curry favor or gauge public opinion. For you, a simple soak might quickly turn into a strategic opportunity. If you were ambitious, you'd know the importance of being seen, of joining conversations, and making your presence known in this charged atmosphere. The bathhouse also served as a sort of informal town square. Unlike noisy public spaces, the bathhouse offered a semi-private environment where deals could be struck discreetly and messages passed with subtlety. You'd find scribes taking notes and messengers coming and going, making the baths a center for the flow of information, official and unofficial. For many, the bathhouse was also a place of gossip, a buzzing hive of rumors and secrets. People talked about everything: politics, scandals, business ventures, and personal affairs. If you wanted to know what was really happening behind closed doors, the bathhouse was the place to be. The flow of information was constant and sometimes dangerous. Alliances shifted quickly, and a careless word could lead to ruin. You'd also notice how important appearances were. Dressing well, showing the right posture, and engaging in the correct conversations were crucial. The bathhouse was as much a stage as a place for bathing, where social status was displayed openly through clothing, speech, and company. If you were not careful, you might be judged or excluded. Even the architecture reflected this social function. The large open halls, the seating areas, and the layout encouraged conversation and interaction. Pools and rooms were designed not just for bathing, but to encourage gatherings. You could sit for hours discussing philosophy, business, or politics, while the warm water relaxed your muscles and the buzz of the crowd kept your mind sharp. In this vibrant environment, time passed differently. What might seem like a simple routine of bathing stretched into hours of social engagement. You came to the baths for hygiene, but stayed for the people, the talk, and the chance to influence the city's pulse. For you, the Roman bathhouse was not just about cleanliness, it was about connection. It was a living, breathing organism where the social fabric of the city was woven and rewoven daily. You understood that being part of this world meant more than washing away dirt. It meant washing in the currents of power, society, and culture. And in this place, you were never just a visitor. You were a participant in the grand, complicated dance of Roman city life. You push open the massive wooden doors of the Roman bathhouse, stepping into a world that is immediately overwhelming. The first thing you notice is the sheer number of people packed into every corner of the sprawling complex. The air is thick not just with steam, but with voices, movement, and the constant shuffle of feet on stone floors. You're surrounded by a sea of bodies, a tangled mix of senators, merchants, slaves, soldiers, and common folk, all sharing this space in close quarters. Navigating the crowded bathhouse is an experience that tests your patience, your senses, and sometimes your very nerves. You find yourself jostled from all sides. Someone brushes past your arm, a child darts between your legs, and nearby, loud laughter erupts from a group gathered by the warm pools. The noise is a constant hum punctuated by bursts of conversation, shouts, and the occasional clatter of sandals against marble steps. There's no privacy here. Your personal space evaporates as you move deeper into the heart of the baths, where the water pools glisten under the overhead light filtering through the high windows. The layout of the bathhouse does little to ease the chaos. Narrow corridors funnel streams of bathers between different rooms, the frigidarium, tepidarium, and caldarium. Each space is crowded, the pools packed shoulder to shoulder with people soaking, chatting, and moving about. You have to weave carefully to avoid bumping into others, mindful not to spill water or lose your footing on the wet floors. The humidity hangs heavy, making the air thick and warm, clinging to your skin and clothes. Despite the chaos, there is an order of sorts, a rhythm to the bathhouse bustle that you begin to understand as you observe. People move in groups, some following the typical sequence of rooms, others stopping to socialize or conduct business. You spot familiar faces, nodding acquaintances, and overhear snippets of conversations, talk of politics, gossip about neighbors, debates over the latest gladiatorial match. But this crowd isn't always friendly or welcoming. With so many people crammed into a single space, tensions sometimes flare. You hear sharp words exchanged over bumped shoulders or accidental splashes. Personal space is scarce, and tempers can fray quickly. The bathhouse, for all its grandeur, is not a tranquil retreat. It's a lively, bustling environment where your patience is tested continuously. Navigating this throng requires keen awareness. You learn to read body language, to anticipate the flow of movement, and to claim small pockets of space when you can. You might stand at the edge of a pool, holding your spot carefully as others jostle past, or find a narrow ledge to sit and catch your breath. The noise, the heat, and the crowd press in on all sides, but you keep moving, driven by the promise of the bath's restorative warmth. The variety of people here is striking. The bathhouse is one of the few places in the city where social classes mingle so freely, but the mix can be chaotic. You might find a wealthy senator reclining near a modest laborer, or a slave hurriedly attending to their master while chatting with other servants. Children run between groups, vendors weave through the crowd selling snacks or oils, and entertainers sometimes perform for tips. It's a microcosm of the city's diversity and its complexity. The sensory overload doesn't stop at the crowd. The smell of sweat, heated stone, and oils mingles with the less pleasant odors of unwashed bodies and crowded spaces. You find yourself blinking against the steam and wiping droplets from your eyes, adjusting to the clammy air. Sometimes you have to raise your voice just to be heard over the cacophony. Despite the challenges, there's an energy here, a pulsating life force that draws you in. The bathhouse is not just a place to clean your body. It's a place to be seen, to connect, and to partake in the city's social pulse. For all the discomfort and chaos, you recognize that this crowded space is vital, a place where the city breathes and its people converge. As you move through the packed rooms, you become more adept at navigating the chaos. You find yourself smiling at familiar faces, joining in conversations, and even relishing the vitality of the place. The bathhouse, in all its crowded noise and confusion, is a reminder that life in the Roman city is never solitary. It is shared, complex, and above all, alive. And so even as the crush of the crowd presses around you, you understand that this chaos is part of the experience. A noisy, sweaty, and unpredictable world where relaxation is a luxury and community is forged in the most crowded of places. You step into the bathhouse, eager for what you hope will be a refreshing escape from the city's heat and dust. But very quickly, you realize this is no simple soak. The routine here is a ritual, a demanding sequence of baths and activities designed not just for cleansing, but for invigorating your body and mind. The process stretches your stamina and tests your discipline, and it requires more than just a willingness to get wet. Your first stop is the appetiterium, the changing room. You strip down, carefully stowing your clothes and belongings in the wooden cubbies or handing them to attendants. There's little privacy here. Others are doing the same, their voices mingling with the clatter of sandals and the murmur of conversation. The air is already thick with steam wafting in from the inner rooms, and you can feel your skin prickling in anticipation. Next, you step into the frigidarium, the cold room. The air here is cooler, a sharp contrast to the heat outside and inside the baths. You might dip a toe or plunge entirely into the chilly pool. The cold water shocks your system, tightening your skin and quickening your breath. For some, this is invigorating. For others, an uncomfortable jolt. You might stand or swim briefly, but the cold bath is only the start. From there, you move into the tepidarium, the warm room. The air is moist and pleasantly heated, the perfect transition from cold to hot. The walls radiate gentle warmth, soothing your muscles and preparing your body for what's to come. Here, you might sit on the marble benches, letting the heat relax your limbs. The tepidarium is also a social space. You'll hear friendly chatter, quiet debates, and the occasional burst of laughter. You breathe deeply, feeling the tension in your body begin to ease. The next step is the caldarium, the hot room. Here, the heat is intense, generated by the hypocaust system that pumps hot air beneath the floors and through the walls. Steam rises thick around you, and beads of sweat soon gather on your skin. You settle onto the heated marble benches, letting the warmth penetrate your muscles and joints. The air is thick and heavy, almost hard to breathe at times. You sweat profusely, and this is part of the cleansing ritual, expelling toxins and impurities from your body. But the caldarium is more than just heat and sweat. Here, attendants might appear with their strigils, curved metal tools used to scrape the sweat, dirt, and oil from your skin. You submit to this often uncomfortable, sometimes painful process, the scraping feeling abrasive but cleansing. It's a necessary part of the routine, and while you might flinch at first, you soon appreciate the smoothness it leaves behind. After this vigorous scrubbing, you might be anointed with fragrant oils, applied carefully and massaged into your skin. These oils soften your skin, add pleasant scents, and are thought to have health benefits. The ritual of oiling is both physical and social. Sometimes you exchange news or small talk with the attendant or nearby bathers. Once you've sweated and scrubbed, you may move again between the rooms, cycling through hot and warm baths, cold plunges, and dry rest periods. The process can take hours, and it's physically demanding. You must pace yourself, staying hydrated and alert, for the heat can be exhausting and the cold jarring. Many also incorporate exercise into their routine. Before entering the baths or in adjoining palestra, you might wrestle, run, or engage in ball games to warm your muscles and work up a sweat. This prelude to bathing adds another layer of exertion and social interaction, blending physical fitness with the bathing ritual. Throughout this demanding routine, you are conscious of the eyes around you. The bathhouse is a public space, and your appearance, posture, and stamina speak volumes about your status and health. You strive to maintain dignity and composure despite the heat, the scrapes, and the crowds. The sequence of baths is as much a mental trial as a physical one. You learn to breathe steadily, endure discomfort, and embrace the ritual's rhythms. The rewards are tangible, cleaner skin, relaxed muscles, and a sense of renewal, but the process is never effortless. By the time you finish, you are drained yet invigorated. You dress slowly in the cooling air of the apoditerium, feeling a renewed connection to your body and your city. The grueling bathhouse routine has shaped your day, your mood, and your social life. It's a test you willingly accept, knowing that the ritual binds you to centuries of Roman tradition. You step into the bathhouse expecting a place of cleanliness and refreshment, but soon you realize that the water here isn't quite what you imagined. The reality is far from the sparkling, pure pools you might picture. Instead, the bathhouse is a messy, sometimes unsanitary environment where hygiene is precarious and contamination is a constant threat. As you settle into the warm waters, you start to understand just how easily infections could spread in this crowded shared space. Unlike modern baths with running water and filtration systems, the Roman bathhouse relied on large pools filled with water that was often stagnant for hours, sometimes days. The water was heated by complex hypocaust systems and filled manually, but it wasn't regularly changed. Thousands of people could use the same pools in a single day, bringing dirt, sweat, oils, and even bodily fluids into the water. You might see others entering the bath covered in oil or dirt, and it's hard not to wonder what else is lurking beneath the surface. There were no showers before entering the pools. Cleaning was done after or during the bathing ritual, not before. So you and everyone else are sharing the same space, the same water, with all its invisible passengers. This close contact created perfect conditions for germs and parasites to thrive, although the Romans didn't understand microbes as we do today. You just knew that spending too much time in the baths sometimes left people feeling ill or worse. Skin infections were common among bathers. You might hear whispers of athlete's foot, ringworm, or boils, all easily caught by walking barefoot on wet floors or sharing the water. The communal scrubbing with strigils helped remove dirt, but it also sometimes causes small cuts or abrasions on the skin openings through which infections could enter. For you, this made the ritual of cleaning both necessary and risky. Waterborne illnesses were another danger. Contaminated water could carry parasites, bacteria, and other pathogens, leading to gastrointestinal diseases. Dysentery and other intestinal complaints were frequent in the city, and the bathhouse was often blamed as a hotspot for spreading illness. You might notice people avoiding certain pools or limiting their time to reduce exposure. The design of the bathhouse itself didn't always help. Drains and channels carried water through the complex. But without modern sanitation, waste and runoff sometimes mingled with bathing water. Sewage systems existed, but were rudimentary and often overwhelmed by the city's growth. During heavy use or in hotter months, the pools could become breeding grounds for disease. The floors and walls were often slick with oils and grime. Slippery surfaces increased the risk of falls and injuries, which could become infected. You had to tread carefully, not just to keep your footing, but to avoid stepping on sharp objects or waste that might have found its way into the baths. Moreover, the bathhouse was a place where bodily functions, sometimes unfolded in public. It wasn't uncommon for people to relieve themselves nearby, or even in the pools, given the sheer crowding and lack of separate facilities. This only worsened the contamination and increased the chance of transmitting diseases. Despite these risks, you returned to the baths regularly. The promise of warmth, socializing, and tradition outweighed the dangers. You learned to be cautious, limiting your time in the water, avoiding pools that looked dirty, and stepping carefully. Some bathhouses employed attendants to keep things cleaner and to sprinkle fragrant herbs or oils into the water. But these measures were more about masking smells than eliminating germs. The dirty truth is that the Roman bathhouse was a paradox, a place of cleansing and contamination, relaxation, and risk. You could emerge feeling refreshed and renewed, but you also ran the chance of picking up infections or illnesses. This reality shaped your experience and made you more aware of your body and surroundings than you might have liked. You realized that hygiene in the ancient world was a complicated matter, dependent not just on rituals, but on chance and circumstance. The baths were essential to city life, but they carried hidden dangers that only the most careful or fortunate avoided. In this, you see a reflection of the city itself, magnificent yet flawed, vibrant yet vulnerable. You step into the warm, steamy caldoreum, the air thick with heat and moisture. Your skin is slick with sweat, oil, and the grime of the day. Now comes the moment that many find uncomfortable, even painful. The ritual of scraping your body clean with the strigil, a curved metal tool that you or an attendant will use to remove every trace of dirt, sweat, and oil from your skin. This isn't a gentle exfoliation. It's a rigorous, sometimes harsh process that leaves your body feeling raw but strangely refreshed. You may have heard of the Roman baths as places of luxury and relaxation, but the reality is that the strigil was essential to proper bathing, and the experience was far from pampering. Bathers covered themselves in olive oil before entering the hot rooms, a practice believed to cleanse pores and protect skin. After sweating in the heated rooms, the oil mixed with sweat and dirt, creating a thick layer that needed to be scraped off. Holding the strigil, you start at your arm, dragging the cold, curved blade firmly across your skin. The sensation is sharp, a mixture of relief as the grime lifts away, and sting where the tool scrapes sensitive areas. You press harder where dirt clings stubbornly, feeling small particles flake off. The sound is distinctive, a scraping noise echoing softly in the humid air. Often, you don't do this yourself. Slaves or attendants skilled in the art of bathing offer their services. They move quickly and expertly, their hands steady as they scrape and scrub. The touch can be firm or rough, depending on the attendant and the mood of the moment. You might flinch at first, but soon surrender to the routine, understanding its necessity. The strigil wasn't just about cleaning dirt. It also removed dead skin cells, sweat gland secretions, and excess oil. Without modern soap, this scraping was the closest thing to a thorough wash. You notice how your skin becomes smoother, almost raw, but better able to absorb the fragrant oils applied afterward. Sometimes the scraping reveals small cuts or abrasions, inevitable given the roughness of the process. These open wounds were a risk for infection, but in the moment, the focus was on cleanliness and appearance. You might grimace at a sting or bleed slightly, but you accept this as part of the bathing ritual. Beyond the physical, the strigil carried social meaning. Being scraped clean was a sign of proper grooming and civilization. Those who avoided the ritual or appeared unkempt risked social scorn. For you, enduring the scraping was a mark of belonging to Roman culture and participating fully in its customs. The ritual could be a moment of intimacy or awkwardness, depending on who did the scraping. If an attendant was involved, there was a degree of trust. After all, they touched you in vulnerable ways. Sometimes, conversations flowed during the process, or silence fell thick and heavy. In either case, the strigil ceremony created a shared experience that bonded bathers and attendants alike. After scraping, You rinse off in warm water, watching the dirt swirl away. Your skin tingles, sensitive to touch, but there's a sense of renewal. Oils are applied next, fragrant and soothing, sealing the skin and completing the cleansing ritual. You might spend time admiring your reflection in a polished bronze mirror, noting how the strigil's work has revealed clear skin beneath the grime. This visible transformation was important. Roman society prized appearance and cleanliness as outward signs of status and health. Yet the process was demanding. The heat of the caldarium, the physical scraping, and the exposure of your skin could leave you exhausted. It wasn't a simple soak, but a full-body ordeal requiring endurance and acceptance of discomfort. Despite the harshness, you come to appreciate the strigil's role in your bathing experience. It connects you to a tradition that goes back generations, a daily practice that shapes your body and your identity as a Roman citizen. You understand that cleanliness is not just about hygiene, but about participating in a cultural ritual that defines who you are. The strigil is more than a tool. It's a symbol of transformation. Through scraping and scrubbing, you shed the dirt of the day, but also the weight of labor and status. You enter the bathhouse as one person and emerge renewed physically, socially, and spiritually. You arrive at the Roman bath complex not simply to bathe, but to engage in an essential prelude. Exercise in the palestra, the open courtyard dedicated to physical training. For you, visiting the baths begins with a workout, a chance to prepare your body and mind before the ritual of cleansing and soaking. This wasn't a casual stroll or light stretching. It was an intense, often competitive session of wrestling, running, ball games, and calisthenics, designed to build strength, stamina, and social bonds. As you step into the palestra, the open-air space buzzes with activity. The rectangular courtyard, surrounded by colonnades and rooms for changing and resting, is alive with the sounds of exertion. Grunts, shouts, and the slap of bodies colliding on the dust-covered ground. You see men of all ages, young boys honing their skills, seasoned athletes sparring, and even some older gentlemen practicing gentle exercises. It's a place where the physical and social worlds intertwine. You join a group warming up with stretches and jogging laps around the perimeter. The ground is hard-packed earth, or sometimes paved with stone, not forgiving to the unprepared. Sweat quickly beads on your forehead as you match strides with the others, feeling your muscles wake and pulse. The air carries the sharp scent of dust, mixed with oil and sweat. Wrestling is a central feature here, a favored sport among Romans. You watch as pairs grapple, testing each other's strength, balance, and technique. The sport isn't just about brute force. It's a contest of skill and strategy. When it's your turn, you engage fully, using leverage and quick thinking to outmaneuver your opponent. The crowd nearby cheers or offers advice, creating a lively atmosphere where competition and camaraderie blend. Besides wrestling, ball games add to the energy. Romans played a version of handball, or a ball game called harpastum, which involved passing and catching a small ball while trying to keep it away from the opposing team. You find yourself running, diving, and laughing amid the rough play, the game sharpening your reflexes and endurance. Calisthenics and weight training also have their place. You might lift heavy stones or practice jumping and stretching to improve agility. Some come alone to focus on individual strength, while others train in groups, encouraging and pushing each other. The palestra is a place of discipline and physical culture, integral to Roman ideals of health and vigor. This exercise isn't merely about fitness. It prepares your body for the heat of the baths. By raising your core temperature and inducing sweat, you prime your skin and muscles to absorb the benefits of the hot rooms. You know the cycle well. Warm up in the palestra, move to the baths for cleansing and relaxation, then cool down in the frigidarium. The palestra also serves as a social arena. Here you meet friends and acquaintances, exchange news, and strengthen bonds. For many Romans, Physical prowess and participation in these exercises signify status and virtue. To skip the palestra might be seen as neglecting your body and social duties. You feel this pressure keenly, motivated not only by health, but by reputation. You notice how the palastra's architecture supports the activities. The colonnades provide shade and a place to rest, while nearby rooms allow quick access to changing and bathing areas. Water fountains and basins let you rinse off dust and cool down after exertion. The design encourages a seamless transition from workout to bath, emphasizing the holistic nature of the experience. As you finish your session, muscles warm and heart pounding, you feel a surge of vitality mixed with fatigue. Your skin glistens with sweat, your clothes cling damply, and your breath comes faster. You head toward the bathing rooms, eager to wash away the dust and grime, but also to relax and socialize. The workout in the palestra is more than just preparation. It's an integral part of the bathhouse ritual, shaping your body and your day. It connects you to centuries of Roman tradition, reflecting ideals of discipline, community, and health. It reminds you that the baths are not just about cleansing, but about cultivating strength and resilience. In this space, you are both athlete and citizen, participant in a culture that values physicality as much as intellect. The sweat and exertion in the palestra set the tone for the rest of your visit, preparing you for the cleansing rituals that follow and reinforcing your place within the vibrant life of the city. You step through the massive doors of the Roman bathhouse, and the first thing that hits you, ascend to the sight of marble pools or the sound of flowing water, it is the smell. The bathhouse is a complex tapestry of odors, some expected and even comforting, others harsh and difficult to ignore. From the mingled scents of sweat, oils, and perfumes, to the unmistakable stench of human waste and stagnant water, the air here is thick and heavy, challenging your senses from the moment you arrive. The most immediate smell you notice is that of sweat. After all, the bathhouse is filled with hundreds of people sweating profusely in the hot rooms, the caldarium and tepidarium, where the air is thick with steam and heat. The mingling of countless bodies, all releasing perspiration, creates a powerful, musky aroma. It's a smell that can be overwhelming if you're not accustomed to it, yet it also carries a certain vitality, the raw scent of life and exertion. Sweat wasn't the only bodily odor present. Bathers coated themselves in olive oil before entering the hot rooms, both to protect their skin and to aid in cleansing. This oil, when heated and mixed with sweat, released a pungent aroma that hung heavily in the air. Some bathhouses added fragrant herbs and resins to the oils, hoping to mask harsher smells, but these perfumes were often subtle and fleeting compared to the overpowering sense of human presence. The smell of soap, as we know it today, was absent. The Romans used oils and scraping with the strigil instead. This meant that the bathhouse carried more organic and animal scents than the clean, soapy fragrance we associate with bathing. You quickly learn to accept this as part of the experience, understanding that cleanliness here was as much about ritual as it was about actual scent. Beneath these natural odors lurked something more unpleasant, the smell of sewage and stagnant water. The baths relied on aqueducts and pipes to bring in fresh water, but the infrastructure wasn't perfect. Drainage systems often became clogged, and waste could accumulate in channels and gutters running beneath and around the baths. You catch whiffs of foul, sulfurous smells, especially near the entrances to the latrines or the back corridors used by attendants and slaves. Sometimes the stench was unavoidable. In crowded conditions, with so many people using the facilities, bodily waste and refuse could mix with the water or settle in hidden corners. The lack of modern sanitation meant that odors from the city's sewers and cesspits occasionally drifted into the bathhouse itself. You might hear complaints from bathers about the smell, but there was little they could do except hold their breath or step away. Despite this challenging environment, Romans developed ways to cope with the bathhouse's distinctive aroma. They burned fragrant woods and herbs, like cedar, frankincense, and myrrh, to perfume the air, hoping to mask less pleasant odors. Small braziers or incense burners sometimes stood near entrances or in communal areas, filling the rooms with sweet-smelling smoke. You might carry scented oils or unguents with you, applying them before or after bathing, not only for skincare, but also as a personal fragrance to combat the bathhouse musk. Perfumed powders and lotions were popular, especially among wealthier bathers who could afford imported scents. Social tolerance also played a role. The bathhouse was a shared space where everyone understood the smells were part of the experience. Over time, your nose adjusts, and what once seemed overpowering becomes background noise, a natural aspect of communal bathing life. You learn not to judge others for their odor, recognizing that you yourself contribute to the mix. Still, the smell sometimes shaped behavior. People moved quickly through certain areas, avoiding corners where odors concentrated. Visitors might limit their time in the hottest rooms or the latrines to escape the worst smells. In some cases, bathhouse managers implemented cleaning routines to reduce buildup, sweeping floors, flushing channels, and airing out rooms when possible. The stench of the bathhouse was more than a nuisance. It was a reminder of the human reality behind the grandeur. It connected you to the many lives and bodies that passed through this place daily, a sensory testimony to the vibrant, messy existence of the Roman city. The smell spoke of sweat and toil, health and disease, community and individuality. As you leave the bathhouse, the sharp contrast between the heavy, humid air inside and the fresh city breeze outside is striking. You might catch a whiff of the baths lingering on your skin or clothing, a reminder of the day's rituals and the mingling of bodies and scents. In the end, the stench of the Roman bathhouse was part of its identity, a complex, often challenging mixture that shaped your experience and connected you to a culture where bathing was a public, social, and sensory event. It wasn't always pleasant, but it was real, and it was yours. You step into the grand Roman bathhouse, where marble columns rise and steam fills the air. But behind the scenes, beyond the pools and social chatter, a complex network of slaves and attendants keeps the entire operation running smoothly. Their work is essential, yet often unseen by many visitors, including yourself. As you navigate through the baths, you begin to notice the roles these individuals play, roles that are vital for maintaining cleanliness, comfort, and order in this bustling public space. From the moment you arrive, slaves are present to guide you, carry your belongings, and help you change in the appetiterium, the dressing room. They move quickly and efficiently, accustomed to managing the flow of hundreds of bathers. Their knowledge of the bath's layout is unmatched, and they know exactly where to take you for the next part of your routine. You realize their presence is not only practical, but also reassuring, a steady constant in an otherwise chaotic environment. Some slaves serve as balneary, specialized attendants who assist bathers directly during the cleansing process. They wield the strigil with practiced hands, scraping oil, sweat, and grime from your skin. The touch can be firm or gentle, depending on the attendant, and the ritual can feel intimate or impersonal. You may have mixed feelings about surrendering to their care, but you recognize their expertise is part of the bathing tradition. Beyond personal care, slaves handle much of the bathhouse's maintenance. They clean the floors, empty waste containers, and tend to the heating systems, particularly the hypocaust, the underground furnace that warms the floors and walls of the caldarium and tepidarium. This work is physically demanding and often dangerous. Slaves must stoke fires, clear ash, and repair pipes to ensure a steady supply of heat and hot water. Without their efforts, the baths would quickly fall into disrepair. In addition to slaves, you notice free attendants and workers employed by the bathhouse. These individuals manage administrative tasks, collect entrance fees, and enforce rules within the baths. Their role is to keep order, prevent theft, and ensure that the facility remains accessible to paying customers. You sometimes hear them calling out warnings or directing traffic when the crowds become too dense. The bathhouse also relies on specialized workers like masseurs and hairdressers who provide services beyond bathing. These attendants offer messages to soothe sore muscles, trim hair, or perform other grooming tasks. Their skills add to the luxury and appeal of the baths, especially for wealthier patrons. You might watch as a well-dressed man reclines, receiving a gentle massage, while nearby others wait their turn. Despite their essential roles, slaves and attendants occupy a low social status. They work long hours in hot, humid conditions, often invisible to the patrons who enjoy the bath's pleasures. You might feel a mixture of gratitude for their service and discomfort at the inequalities their presence highlights. The bathhouse is a place where social boundaries blur. Rich and poor mingle in the pools, but behind the scenes, hierarchy remains strict and unyielding. You notice the careful coordination among the slaves and attendants. They communicate quietly, anticipating needs and solving problems before they arise. When a pool needs cleaning or a furnace requires tending, they spring into action with practiced efficiency. Their teamwork is essential in a place where cleanliness and smooth operation affect everyone's experience. On some occasions, slaves act as informal guides or companions, especially for visitors unfamiliar with the complex routines. They might explain the sequence of baths, advise on which rooms to visit next, or even engage in light conversation. You find this surprising. Despite their status, many slaves are knowledgeable and skilled in their work, respected within their sphere. A bathhouse reliance on slaves reflects the broader Roman society where slavery underpinned much of the economy and daily life. You see the bathhouse as a microcosm of the city, luxurious and communal on the surface, but supported by labor often taken for granted. This realization adds depth to your experience, making you more aware of the human efforts behind the marble and steam. At times you overhear whispered stories among slaves, tales of hardship, hopes for freedom, or quiet resistance. These voices remind you that behind the serene surface of the baths lies a complex web of human lives, each with its own struggles and stories. As you finish your visit, you reflect on the invisible workforce that made it all possible. The slaves and attendants shaped your day in subtle yet profound ways, their labor woven into every step of the bathing ritual. Without them, the grandeur of the bathhouse would collapse into chaos and neglect. You leave with a deeper understanding, not just of the baths themselves, but of the social dynamics and human effort that sustained this vital institution. The next time you enter a Roman bathhouse, you know to look beyond the marble and steam, to acknowledge the many hands that work tirelessly to maintain this world of relaxation and ritual. You enter the Roman bathhouse, a bustling hub of social interaction, relaxation, and ritual. But stepping through those grand doors means more than just shedding your clothes and soaking in warm water. It means entering a world governed by unspoken codes, strict rules, and carefully observed etiquette. To navigate the baths successfully, you need to understand these do's and don'ts, the behaviors that defined how people interacted, preserved modesty, and maintained order in this shared space. First, there's the matter of modesty, or rather, how modesty was understood in this communal setting. Unlike today, where privacy in bathing is the norm, the Roman baths were inherently public. You would be naked among dozens, sometimes hundreds, of fellow bathers. This exposure was normal and even expected, but it came with rules about decorum. Staring or leering was frowned upon, though you knew that not everyone abided by this. Maintaining respectful behavior was a way to preserve your dignity and avoid conflict. Before entering the baths, you were expected to clean yourself, but this did not mean showers or soap as we know them. The use of the strigil for scraping oil and dirt off was standard, and failure to participate in this cleansing ritual could earn disapproving glances or worse. Hygiene was tied to social standing. Being unclean suggested laziness or poverty. The bathhouse was also a place for conversation and negotiation, but certain topics and behaviors were off limits. Loud arguments or disputes could quickly escalate in the crowded space, so keeping your voice measured was key. There was an unspoken expectation to avoid excessive noise or disruptive behavior, although you knew that the baths were rarely quiet. Instead, bathers exchanged news, jokes, and gossip, their voices blending with the sounds of splashing water and scraping strigils. You learned early on that the baths had designated spaces for different activities, and respecting these zones was important. The frigidarium, tepidarium, and caldarium each had their roles, and spending too long or behaving improperly in one could draw attention. For example, lingering too long in the hot caldarium was not only taxing on your health, but could irritate other bathers waiting for their turn. You had to read the room, knowing when to move on and when to step aside. When it came to attire, or lack thereof, there were few exceptions. Nudity was standard, but modesty could be maintained with small towels called subligacula, or with wrapped cloths in certain areas, especially if you were of higher status or female. You noticed that women's bathing was often separate or restricted to specific times, and mixing of genders was generally avoided to preserve propriety. Rules around this varied by location and social norms. Touching or physical contact was a delicate matter. Casual brushing was inevitable in crowded pools, but any deliberate contact, especially of an intimate nature, was usually frowned upon or outright forbidden. The baths could be places of flirtation or intrigue, but public decorum imposed limits. Violating these unwritten rules could result in rebuke or social ostracism. Another key aspect of bathhouse etiquette involved cleanliness and respect for shared spaces. You were expected not to pollute the pools with dirt, oil, or bodily waste. Latrines were provided nearby, and relieving yourself in the baths was taboo, though, as you knew, not always observed. You had to be mindful of your behavior to avoid offending others and to keep the environment tolerable. Proper conduct extended to interactions with slaves and attendants. These workers deserved respect, as they were essential to the bathhouse's operation. Mocking or mistreating them was socially unacceptable and could cause unrest. You noticed how some bathers were courteous, while others took their service for granted, an attitude that was quietly condemned. The issue of time and space management was another crucial rule. Bathhouses were crowded, especially during peak hours, and monopolizing benches, pools, or even the strigil attendants was considered rude. You learned to pace your bathing routine, moving through the sequence of rooms efficiently to accommodate others. When waiting for a spot in the caldarium or frigidarium, patience was expected. There were also rules about bringing food or drink into the baths. While some bathhouses had adjacent taverns or snack stalls, eating within the bathing rooms was generally discouraged to maintain cleanliness and prevent accidents. Drinking wine or water was common, but you were careful not to overindulge, as intoxication could lead to disorderly conduct. In some baths, you observed that gambling and games were either prohibited or regulated. The baths were places for relaxation and socializing, not for contentious disputes or distractions. When games occurred, they were usually quiet and friendly dice, board games, or ball tossing, not rowdy or aggressive competitions. Finally, you understood that the rules of etiquette served a practical purpose. The bathhouse was a communal space shared by many, often of varying social classes and backgrounds. The guidelines helped maintain peace, ensured that everyone could enjoy the facilities, and protected the social order. Breaking these rules risked personal embarrassment, conflict, or even removal from the baths. As you leave the bathhouse, you carry with you a new appreciation for the invisible codes that govern such public spaces. You realize that the baths were more than just places for washing. They were arenas of social interaction, negotiation, and cultural performance, all held together by the delicate balance of etiquette. Understanding these rules deepens your connection to the Roman world, revealing how people manage the challenges of communal life with grace, respect, and sometimes a bit of tension. Navigating the bathhouse successfully requires not just a willingness to bathe, but a keen awareness of social cues, respect for others, and an understanding of the unspoken rules that keep this ancient institution running smoothly. The bathhouse was far more than a place for cleansing. It was a vibrant stage where politics and social maneuvering played out amid the steam and marble. Within these walls, power was courted, alliances forged, and whispers of intrigue passed from lip to eager ear. You find yourself immersed in a world where the lines between relaxation and political theater blur, and every conversation carries the weight of potential influence. From the moment you arrive, the bathhouse's role as a political hub is clear. Senators, wealthy merchants, and influential citizens mingle alongside commoners, their status displayed as much by posture and attire as by spoken word. The baths offer a rare venue where these diverse groups converge in relative equality, creating fertile ground for negotiation and persuasion. You notice that conversations are carefully measured, but loaded with meaning. A passing remark about a recent decree, a veiled critique of a magistrate, or a compliment strategically placed can all ripple through the social fabric. Here, gossip isn't mere idle chatter, it's currency, wielded with precision. You hear murmurs of upcoming elections, scandals, and court intrigues, often veiled in humor or irony, but taken seriously by those listening. Meetings are sometimes arranged discreetly near the pools or in the quieter corners of the palestra. Business deals and political pacts are made between dips in the frigidarium or after bouts of wrestling. You witness gestures exchanged beneath towels or subtle nods across the steam signals, understood only by those involved. The bathhouse becomes a microcosm of the city's political life, where public and private intersect. At times, you overhear passionate debates on civic matters. The baths are places for discussion about taxes, laws, and military campaigns. Citizens air grievances or praise leaders, their voices blending with the splash of water and clatter of strigils. For many, these conversations are as important as the bathing itself, an essential part of staying informed and engaged. The presence of slaves and attendants also influences this political theater. Some slaves act as informants, quietly relaying messages or gathering intelligence. You realize that the bathhouse is a complex network of communication, with information flowing in multiple directions, shaping reputations and fortunes. Rumors spread swiftly in this environment. A whispered scandal about a senator's misdeeds or a general's failed campaign can alter public opinion overnight. You might hear tales exaggerated or distorted, but the effect is real. Reputations rise or fall on the strength of bathhouse gossip. In a city without mass media, this informal network is powerful. You also sense the role of the bathhouse as a social equalizer. While status matters here, even lower-ranking citizens or freedmen might gain access to influential circles through conversation and wit. You see ambitious young men and women navigating this world, seeking patrons or allies amid the steam and chatter. But the bathhouse's political life isn't without risks. Speaking too boldly or offending the wrong person can lead to social exclusion or worse. You've heard stories of insults flung in the heat of debate, resulting in duels or public disgrace. Thus, careful diplomacy governs many interactions, with subtlety prized over outright confrontation. Certain sections of the bathhouse are known for their political activity. The tepidarium, with its moderate heat and relaxed atmosphere, often serves as a gathering spot for informal discussions. The palestra is not only a place for exercise, but for heated argument and alliance building. Even the entrance halls become stages for greeting and networking. You find yourself drawn into this dynamic environment, balancing enjoyment of the baths with awareness of the undercurrents flowing through every conversation. The political theater unfolding around you is as much a part of the bathing experience as the pools and steam. Leaving the bathhouse, you carry with you not just a sense of physical renewal, but an understanding of the social and political currents that shape your city. The bathhouse remains a vital arena where the personal meets the political, where power is brokered in whispers and glances as much as in the formal halls of government. Roman bathhouses were bustling centers of community life, yet access to them was anything but equal. Social class and gender shaped who could enter, when, and how they experienced these public spaces. Understanding these distinctions gives you a clearer picture of the complexities and contradictions that underpinned Roman society and the bathhouse itself. As you approach the entrance, you realize that your ability to enter depends heavily on your social standing. For wealthy citizens, access to the most prestigious baths was often unrestricted or reserved for specific times, complete with private rooms and exclusive services. These baths were grand affairs, featuring elaborate architecture, pools of varying temperatures, and luxurious decorations. You might find senators, equestrians, and influential merchants moving through these spaces with ease, accompanied by slaves or attendants who cater to their needs. In contrast, common citizens, freedmen, and slaves had more limited options. Public baths were generally open to all free males for a modest fee or sometimes free, depending on the city and the benefactors funding the facility. However, the quality and crowding differed. You would likely encounter packed pools filled with a diverse mix of people from different backgrounds, all jostling for space. The atmosphere in these communal baths was lively, noisy, and at times chaotic. Women's access to bathhouses was more restricted and varied by region and social norms. In some cities, women and men bathed at separate times, often with women given morning or afternoon hours, while men used the baths in the evening. In other places, women had entirely separate facilities or smaller annexes adjacent to the main baths. You notice that these women's sections were usually less ornate and sometimes less well maintained. Gender segregation extended beyond the pools. Attendants, changing rooms, and services were organized to preserve modesty and social expectations. While men generally bathed nude, women often wore light coverings or tunics, depending on the local customs. Interactions between men and women within the bathhouse were limited, as mixing was viewed as improper or even scandalous. Class divisions also shaped the experience once inside. The wealthy could afford massages, haircuts, and other grooming services that commoners might only glimpse or be entirely excluded from. Private cubicles, reserved pools, and even special seating areas reinforced social hierarchies. You observe how patrons subtly or overtly displayed their status through clothing, jewelry, and the company they kept. Slaves, while essential to the operation of the baths, had the least access. They might only enter when working or to accompany their masters. Occasionally, slaves were allowed limited use of facilities during off hours, but this was rare. Their presence was mostly behind the scenes, maintaining the baths rather than enjoying them. Despite these divisions, the baths were one of the few places where different social strata intersected relatively freely. You see senators chatting with merchants, artisans exchanging news with freedmen, and even the occasional slave serving as a guide or attendant. The bathhouse could, in some ways, act as a social leveler, a place where status mattered, but could be temporarily set aside for the sake of hygiene, relaxation, and community. You also notice how political and social connections played out within these class and gender boundaries. A wealthy patron might sponsor a public bath, gaining popularity among citizens and cementing social capital. Women, often excluded from the main baths, found ways to build their own social networks in separate facilities or during designated times. The bathhouse experience was deeply shaped by these access rules, influencing not just who could enter, but how they moved through the space, interacted with others, and enjoyed the bath's amenities. For you, understanding these layers adds richness to the experience, revealing how the bathhouse mirrored the complexities of Roman society itself. Ultimately, the baths were a place of both inclusion and exclusion, where community life flourished within boundaries, drawn by class and gender. Your visit leaves you with a nuanced view of how the Romans balanced public life, social hierarchy, and personal needs in one of their most iconic institutions. The Roman bathhouse was not only a place for cleansing and socializing, it was also a bustling marketplace and entertainment hub where vendors and performers thrived, seizing the opportunity to cater to the steady flow of patrons. As you navigate through the bathhouse complex, you quickly realize that commerce and amusement pulse just beneath the surface of the marble pools and steaming rooms, creating a vibrant, sometimes chaotic, atmosphere where business and leisure intertwine. Vendors set up stalls in small carts near entrances, courtyards, and along busy walkways, their voices rising above the chatter to attract customers. These merchants sold a variety of goods, essential for the bathing experience and beyond. You see sellers offering fresh fruits like figs and grapes, dried nuts, and honey-sweetened pastries, quick snacks, perfect for replenishing energy after a workout or before the next round of bathing. The scent of baked bread and spiced wine drifts through the air, tempting bathers to indulge. Other vendors specialize in bathing supplies. You spot stalls with fragrant oils and unguents, used for moisturizing the skin or masking less pleasant odors. Perfumed powders, scented soaps, and even small containers of herbal remedies are available for purchase, catering especially to wealthier patrons who desire a touch of luxury. These items are displayed carefully, their labels boasting exotic origins to entice buyers seeking status as well as cleanliness. In addition to food and grooming products, you notice sellers of simple wares, cloth wraps, sandals, towels, and even jewelry. For some, the bathhouse is the perfect place to browse and buy, as the patrons are relaxed and open to distraction. These vendors rely on both impulse purchases and the social nature of the baths, where gifting and showing off new items is part of the interaction. Entertainers add another layer to the bathhouse's lively environment. You hear the sound of flutes and lyres from courtyards or shaded corners where musicians perform. Dancers, acrobats, and storytellers gather small crowds, weaving through the bathers with theatrical flair. Their performances offer a welcome distraction between the routine of washing, sweating, and resting. You observe jugglers tossing pins and balls with deft skill, sometimes inviting onlookers to join or applaud. Mimes and comedians perform brief, humorous acts, their jokes often referencing current events or local gossip, adding a sharp social commentary to their art. These entertainers thrive on the crowd's attention, adapting their acts to suit the mood and energy of the space. Some vendors and performers work closely together, forming informal partnerships. For instance, a fruit seller might sponsor a musician, or a perfume vendor might engage a dancer to draw in customers. This synergy helps both parties maximize their reach, turning the bathhouse into a dynamic marketplace of goods and culture. You also notice that vendors must compete fiercely for attention. Shouting loudly or creating eye-catching displays, they navigate the crowded corridors and courtyards, sometimes clashing with each other for prime spots. The bathhouse managers occasionally intervene to regulate stalls, ensuring that commerce doesn't overwhelm the bathing experience. Pricing is a delicate matter. Vendors set prices according to the clientele, charging more during busy times or to wealthier customers. Negotiation and haggling are common, and you might find yourself bargaining for a better deal on olive oil or a small charm. This marketplace atmosphere contributes to the bathhouse's social fabric, where economic transactions mingle with conversation and relaxation. Despite the commercial hustle, the presence of vendors and entertainers enriches the bathhouse experience. They transform what could be a sterile, purely functional space into a lively community hub where senses are engaged beyond water and steam. The smells of food, the sounds of music, and the sight of performance bring warmth and vitality to the stone surroundings. This blend of commerce and culture also reflects the Roman understanding of public spaces as multifunctional. Bathhouses were not just about hygiene. They were venues for networking, leisure, and display. Vendors and entertainers played a crucial role in sustaining this ecosystem, supporting the bath's popularity and economic viability. Leaving the bathhouse, you carry the memory of these vibrant sights and sounds alongside the feeling of refreshed skin and soothed muscles. The business side of the baths, often overlooked, remains an essential part of the institution's life, connecting people through shared experiences of trade, entertainment, and social interaction. Roman bathhouses stood as marvels of architecture and engineering, combining form and function in ways that still inspire awe today. Beneath the elegant facades and marble columns lay complex systems of heating, plumbing, and structural design that made the baths not only beautiful, but operational wonders. Understanding these innovations reveals just how much thought and skill went into creating these communal spaces you are now beginning to appreciate on a whole new level. At the heart of the bathhouse's engineering genius is the hypocaust system, the ancient equivalent of central heating. This innovation was crucial for warming the floors and walls of the hot rooms, the calderorum and tepidarium, ensuring bathers experienced consistent, enveloping warmth rather than mere surface heat. The hypocaust worked by channeling hot air and smoke from a furnace through empty spaces beneath the raised floors and inside hollow bricks in the walls. You find yourself intrigued by the design. The floors rest on a series of small pillars called pile stacks, creating a cavity below the surface. The furnace, or prefernium, located at one end of the bathhouse, burns wood or charcoal, sending hot air into this space. This heat rises through the floors and walls, warming the rooms above evenly. The system was highly efficient, allowing precise control of temperature by adjusting the fire's intensity or diverting airflow. In addition to heating, the baths required an extensive and sophisticated plumbing network. Aqueducts brought fresh water from distant sources, often miles away, supplying vast reservoirs that fed the various pools. You imagine the immense effort needed to construct these channels, maintain water pressure, and ensure cleanliness. Inside the bathhouse, water was distributed through lead or terracotta pipes directed into the cold plunge pool, warm bath, and hot bath. Wastewater and used water drained out through cleverly designed channels leading to sewers or natural watercourses. You appreciate how these systems prevented stagnation and maintained a cycle of fresh water, though not always perfectly, as occasional contamination occurred. Architecturally, bathhouses were masterpieces of design, combining aesthetics with practical needs. The layout followed a deliberate sequence. You moved from changing rooms through progressively warmer rooms, culminating in the hottest bath and often finishing with exercise areas or social spaces like the palestra. This flow mirrored the bathing ritual, guiding you physically and psychologically through cleansing and relaxation. The buildings themselves featured soaring vaulted ceilings, large windows, and intricate mosaics. Many bathhouses incorporated natural light and ventilation to combat humidity and odors. You notice how open courtyards and colonnades offered spaces for rest and socializing, breaking the interior's intensity with airy elegance. Material choice was both symbolic and functional. Marble and polished stone created a sense of luxury and permanence, while bricks and concrete provided durability. Waterproof cement, known as opus caementitium, sealed pools and channels, a Roman innovation that allowed baths to hold water securely over centuries. Structural innovations ensured the vast weight of water and stone was supported safely. Arches, vaults, and buttresses distributed loads efficiently, enabling expansive interior spaces free of obstructive columns. This engineering skill allowed bathhouses to accommodate large crowds comfortably. The heating, plumbing, and architectural elements worked in harmony, requiring constant maintenance by skilled workers and slaves. You gain respect for the craftsmen plumbers, masons, furnace tenders, whose expertise kept the baths functioning day after day. Overall, the Roman bathhouse emerges as a triumph of human ingenuity, a blend of science, art, and social engineering. The next time you enjoy a modern spa or heated pool, you will carry an appreciation for these ancient innovations that laid the groundwork for so many aspects of contemporary comfort. The Roman bathhouse was widely celebrated, not just as a place of relaxation and social gathering, but also as a center for health and well-being. As you explore these grand spaces, you quickly realize that health was a major reason people came here. Romans believed that bathing rituals could cleanse the body, improve circulation, and even ward off disease. Yet beneath these hopeful ideas lay practices that sometimes did more harm than good, revealing a complex relationship between ancient beliefs and medical realities. The baths were thought to promote physical health by stimulating blood flow and relaxing muscles. Moving through rooms of varying temperatures, from the chilly frigidarium to the steamy caldarium, was believed to open pores, encourage sweating, and flush toxins from the body. You imagine how, after vigorous exercise in the palestra, entering the baths felt like a restorative ritual designed to rejuvenate both body and spirit. Roman physicians often recommended bathing as part of daily hygiene and medical treatment. You hear stories of doctors advising patients to use specific oils, herbal infusions, or to spend time in certain rooms to address ailments like arthritis, respiratory issues, or skin conditions. The baths doubled as informal clinics where health advice was exchanged alongside gossip and politics. However, some of the health practices associated with the baths were misguided by modern standards. The communal water was rarely changed frequently, and despite plumbing innovations, contamination was common. You realize how this environment could become a breeding ground for infections, skin diseases, and parasites. The warm, moist conditions ideal for comfort also fostered bacteria and fungi. The ritual of applying oils and scraping skin with a strigil, intended to cleanse, might inadvertently spread skin irritations or wounds. You imagine how close contact with others, combined with shared tools, increased the risk of transmitting diseases. Additionally, the presence of open wounds or contagious illnesses could quickly affect many patrons. Bloodletting and other medical treatments were sometimes performed within or near the baths. You picture barbers and surgeons offering quick procedures, though their understanding of hygiene was limited. Instruments were not sterilized, and the risk of infection was high. Rather than healing, these interventions could worsen health outcomes. The belief in the bath's health benefits also extended to mental well-being. The soothing environment, social interaction, and physical relaxation were seen as essential to a balanced life. You can understand how this holistic approach to health helped people cope with the stresses of urban living, even if some medical claims were overblown. You become aware that some prominent figures criticized certain bathhouse practices. Philosophers and physicians debated the risks and benefits of long exposure to heat or the use of certain oils. This discourse reflects an early awareness of potential dangers and a desire to improve bathing culture. Despite these contradictions, the baths played an undeniable role in public health by promoting cleanliness in a world without modern sanitation. Regular bathing reduced odors, removed dirt and parasites, and encouraged personal hygiene in a way few other communal institutions could. You also notice that the baths contributed indirectly to health through exercise facilities and social support networks. The palestra offered space for physical activity, while conversations and camaraderie fostered emotional well-being. In this way, the bathhouse was a multifaceted health center. Leaving the bathhouse, you reflect on the paradox of this ancient institution, a place celebrated for its healing powers, but also a potential source of illness. This tension highlights the limits of contemporary knowledge and the complexities of living in a densely populated city. Your experience deepens your appreciation for Roman innovation and the evolving understanding of health. The bathhouse was not a perfect clinic, but it represented a significant step toward integrating physical care, social life, and hygiene, a legacy that echoes through time. The grandeur of the Roman bathhouse, once a bustling centerpiece of social and civic life, faced a profound transformation as the Roman Empire waned. As you consider the fate of these iconic structures, it becomes clear that their decline was not abrupt, but a complex process shaped by political upheaval, economic shifts, changing social values, and the rise of new religions. Yet even as many bathhouses fell into ruin or were repurposed, their legacy endured, echoing through later cultures and influencing how societies thought about public bathing, hygiene, and community spaces. In the centuries following the empire's peak, maintenance of the vast bath complexes became increasingly difficult. The intricate heating systems, aqueducts, and plumbing required skilled labor and steady funding. With the empire's political fragmentation and economic challenges, many cities struggled to keep these facilities operational. You imagine the furnaces growing cold, the pools stagnating, and the marble halls succumbing to neglect. Invasions and warfare further accelerated this decline. Bathhouses located near strategic points were often damaged or destroyed during conflicts. You picture soldiers marching through ruined bath complexes, stones looted for fortifications, and bathhouses converted into barracks, storage, or even Christian churches. The shift in power centers meant less imperial investment in public amenities. Religious transformation played a significant role in the bathhouse's fate. As Christianity spread and became the dominant faith, attitudes toward public bathing evolved. Some early Christian leaders viewed the bath's association with nudity, pagan rituals, and social mingling with suspicion or outright condemnation. Bathing itself was not rejected, but the social and moral context changed. You observe that many bathhouses were closed, repurposed, or fell out of favor as private bathing in smaller, more modest settings gained popularity. The communal aspect diminished, and public bath culture fragmented. However, some bathhouses continued to operate in Byzantine and Islamic contexts, where public bathing remained important and was adapted with new architectural and cultural elements. Despite the decline of the traditional Roman bathhouse, its influence rippled through history. Medieval Europe saw the emergence of bathhouses and public baths, often inspired by Roman precedents but adapted to contemporary norms and constraints. The tradition of communal bathing persisted in different forms, from monastic bathing facilities to bathhouses in medieval cities. You also notice how Islamic bathhouses or hammams drew directly from Roman models, incorporating heating systems, sequential rooms, and social functions. These baths became cultural institutions in their own right, emphasizing cleanliness, socialization, and ritual purification. In the Renaissance and beyond, renewed interest in classical antiquity led architects and scholars to study Roman baths, inspiring spa culture and modern bathing facilities. You recognize echoes of Roman engineering in the development of modern plumbing and heating technologies, as well as in the design of leisure spaces focused on wellness. The ruins of Roman bathhouses continue to captivate visitors today, offering tangible connections to ancient daily life and the engineering marvels that supported it. You appreciate how these remnants serve as reminders of the Roman sophisticated approach to public health, social interaction, and urban life. Reflecting on this legacy, you see the bathhouse as a symbol of cultural continuity and change, an institution shaped by its time but adaptable, inspiring generations to come. Though the baths as the Romans knew them faded, their spirit survives in spas, public pools, and communal spaces dedicated to relaxation and social connection worldwide. Your journey through the rise, fall, and enduring impact of the Roman bathhouse deepens your understanding of history's layers, revealing how innovation, culture, and belief intertwine to shape the places where people come together. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the fascinating world of Roman bathhouses, their grandeur, daily realities, and lasting legacy. From the bustling social hubs to the marvels of engineering, we've uncovered how these spaces were much more than just places to get clean. They were centers of politics, health, entertainment, and community life, reflecting the complexities of Roman society itself. If you enjoyed exploring these ancient wonders with me, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's hidden stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And if you have questions or thoughts about Roman bathhouses or ideas for future videos, drop a comment below. I love hearing from you. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, keep discovering, keep wondering, and keep exploring the past with me.